The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The People's View is a show sponsored by the Nashua Republican City Committee. The committee meets every second Thursday at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to contact us, we have a website, nashuagop.org. And at the end of the show, you'll see some contact phone numbers or email addresses that you may want to send us your comments and recommendations. Thank you for listening in.
Welcome to The People's View, a program dedicated to discussing local, state, and national issues and their effect on the American people. The People's View provides a platform for state representatives and national figures to present their viewpoint. Whether it's social, economic, or financial topics, you'll hear it on The People's View.
Hello, and today our guest is Fred Teeboom. Fred, you're heading up an organization now to keep the spending cap. Tell us about it. Tell us about your organization and why you feel so strongly about keeping the spending cap for the Nashua city budget.
Well, we've had the cap for, what, 21 years now? It took a lot of work to get it into law. The teachers' union tried to get rid of it 2 years after it was in law. And there's been a struggle ever since to keep it. But the spending cap has been very, very beneficial to the taxpayers in general, keeping constraint on spending. You can override the cap, a 2/3 vote. It's now 10 votes. So it's not absolute. It gives safety valve. But these unions tried to do everything to get rid of it. They took us to the courts. We went all the way to the Supreme Court. I argued the case in the Supreme Court.
Oh. How long ago was that?
2011, about 3 years ago.
Oh.
I wound up in the Supreme Court, and justices with the Attorney General, and we prevailed. But they took it to the ballot boxes. They fought us in the ballot boxes. They fought us in the legislature. Tried to block the cap. Tried to declare it unconstitutional. Tried to stop it in Manchester. And all kinds of places. Even if the petition went on, they tried to block the petition illegally. They pulled all kinds of stuff, and that's why I'm still in the game. Because the spending cap is good. It's
you can see that when they go through the budget, because they always are thinking about that upper limit.
When they go through the budget, when they're negotiating their cushy contracts, the spending cap is always there. It is a constraint. It's not an absolute. It tells you, think about what you're spending your money on. And one thing about the government, love to spend money.
Oh, yeah.
Other people's money. Taxpayers' money. Love to spend money.
And they a lot of times don't even justify some of the programs they want to spend it on.
They hardly ever justify the programs they want to spend it on. So that's, you know, you see the vote going up, you see the vote going down. But, you know, it's the city of Nashua spends about 80% of its budget, thereabouts. 70–80% on personnel, on people.
Right.
So it's a people cost you have to contain. Now, when you vote in the police union contract with 8%, I get the figures right here, anywhere from 4% to 8%. That's a contract cost. That's what the taxpayers have to fund for. But if your income is raised by maybe 1%, if you're Social Security like I am, and I think, Carl, you may be in Social Security, we got what, 1.4%?
Yeah.
And they get 8%. Now, something has to give. How are you going to pay for that 8% if all you get is 1%?
And
but they don't care.
Yeah, they have a lot of people our age in this town, too.
You know, we fought the teachers' union. They were parading, you know. We stopped their contracts. We didn't adopt their contracts. And the third time around, I think they called us names. They packed the upper chamber upstairs, above the main chamber, stomped their feet. I felt like I was godlike. I'd say, let there be noise, and be stomping. You know, I mean, just recently I made a comment. It's in the newspaper. you know, the police union wanted, the police patrolmen wanted to get their contracts adopted. And it's about a 7-year contract. And some of these numbers, I have them here, you can't see it, but like 7%, 8%, 4%. And to push it through, they had maybe 30 or 40 policemen in a chamber with their uniforms, with their badges, and with their weapons, you know, standing like that. Now, that's what they pull in the Banana Republic.
So did you recognize them?
I recognize every one of them, beginning with the chief. Okay? Weapons in the holster. You know, I'm not talking about sticks. I'm talking about weapons you can fire. And they're standing there. And why? Intimidation. Approve our contract. Adopt our contract. Now the teachers, as an example, can't put on their uniform. They can't. They don't have badges, but they have massive numbers of people. There's 1,000 teachers on the contract. So if they could bring up 100, can you imagine 100 people
standing in that
crowding into that small automatic chamber, yelling, screaming, making noise?
The aldermen don't keep everything.
Well, they try, but you know, when you're an alderman sitting there, you see all these people out there, you know, shaking noise. You know, it's intimidating.
Well,
you can't ignore it.
They put this in as a resolution, which was approved to change the city
Now let's talk
charter.
about that. Yes, one more time.
Yeah.
They've gone out and gotten signatures. Now, for you and I to go and get signatures, it's difficult. We got to go in the streets. We got to go wherever we can get them, out to house, signature by signature, to get about between 2,000 and 3,000 signatures. What teachers can do is say, hello, meeting lunch in room 222, an important measure. All up here. And 100 teachers will walk into a meeting, they all sign this thing, they don't even know what they're signing. In this case, nobody understands what this change is. But they sign it, and they got it on the ballot.
Did anybody put out a estimate of what the difference is between what they're proposing and what we have now?
Yes, I have, and in fact, I have a chart on that.
No, what is this cap that they're proposing to use versus what we have now?
It's I can't pronounce it. It's some kind of a gross domestic product, implicit price deflator, and some other terms. Okay.
Where did they
But what it
come?
really means, it's a government spending index. So the more the government spends, the higher the index.
Oh, I see.
What we have right now is
So
a
it's
consumer
based on
price
what our
index.
federal government spends? Is that what you're saying?
State and local government.
State and local government.
But because it includes federal spending, it includes that as well. As an example, the explanation the city's provided is what you spend on bombers and fighters is included in this index. You can get that explanation from the city clerk. The fact of it is, government spending index is always larger, has never been lower than consumer pricing index.
How much larger?
Well, it can vary. It can be as much as 50% higher from what I've seen.
Really?
So what that means
Wow.
to your pocketbook is the following. It's not that your tax bill increases by 50%. Nobody said that. Only Ken Siegel, who wrote an article in Telegraph today, said that. Okay? I didn't say that. It's the amount you're allowed to grow under the index.
Right.
So let's say you have a $6,000, you bring it down to your taxes. You get a $6,000 tax. If the increase in that tax is 3%, let's say, under the CPI, or 2%, or 3%, typically what we're
somewhere
getting
in there.
now, that's $180 a year increase. Under their index, it would be 50% higher. So you're spending another $90. That would be to a taxpayer. What it means in terms of budget, we have a $250 million budget. Somewhere between $250 and $280 million.
Right.
Some of it is granted money.
Yeah.
But $250 million city budget. If that goes up by 3%, they got $7.5 million to add to the budget. If it goes up to 10%, they get $25 million to add to the budget. So in terms of how much you can spend, mostly on these union contracts, is millions of dollars more, which is what they want. So the millions of dollars more allowed under the cap before you have to go to an override. So, you know, so an arbitrary but fairly acceptable limit. Okay, because if you as a ultimate vote to override it, your name it's a roll call vote.
Yeah.
Your name is known, and it says you're an ultimate. Carl Seidel voted to override the cap. That's an automatic notice. Don't vote for this guy next time he tries to get elected.
And it's sort of self-perpetuating in a way. I mean, if you raise it once, then that means that the index goes up, and so the next time
just keep going
it's
again.
up higher.
So it goes 50% higher,
Yeah.
50% higher, 50% higher, 50% higher. Now, I'm not saying it's 50% more. Traditionally, it's been 50% more. Now, because government spending is under pressure because of the 2008 debacle, under the current both state, local, and federal government, there tends to be a little bit less spending. So the growth in spending has come down, basically because...
But it's never been under the CPI.
Never been. Never been. It's been 50%, 40%, 30%. I haven't gone all the way back. You have to go, it's a very obscure, by the way, that index that
so they don't do anything to justify this. They just say that we need more money.
Well, it's always the same story. Now, when they were against the cap,
Yeah.
let me try to bring it in. Tumbleweed is going to come down Main Street because the city's going to be deserted.
Yeah.
It's always the same argument.
Yeah.
You know, it never supported. It's always the emotional argument. You're going to damage the city. They're going to say your homes are worth less. How can homes be worth less if you pay less tax? Homes are going to be worth more. Okay. How can you claim that a city will be worse off if your taxes are low? They say, well, people won't come into your community. The students won't come into your community. People look at lower price communities.
Yeah.
So they can afford them.
Mm-hmm.
Not high price community. Now, you don't want to go so low that you starve, but we got a total $280 million budget for 90,000 people. Figure that out. That's a very, very healthy budget. But you know, on a conservative administration, Mayor Loza, by the way, runs a pretty conservative administration. You get money left over at the end, it's called surplus. Don't spend every penny. Try to reserve some of this money. We have a healthy reserve. And because that healthy reserve we need for emergency, you guys in state call it a rainy day fund. I don't know if you have one now. Yeah, you used to have one healthy one. But we've got quite a healthy one in the city. Millions of dollars worth. And you need that to stabilize the tax rate in case there's inflation.
That's right.
So you can take some of the money reserve and
They've
spend
done
it
that in the
against
county.
Necessary taxes. Oh, you know, but you know who loves those reserves? Who loves the spending cap? The rating agencies. The people that pay, you know, that rate the quality of your bonds. You know, if you go bankrupt like Detroit, it's junk bond.
Right.
You pay 10% more. We just had a $20 million issue in the city of Nashua. We paid less than 3%. Less than 3% interest. That's very attractive.
And you want to keep it that way.
Well, of course you want to keep it that way. You want to live in Detroit?
I've been through there. I've seen that. That is terrible.
That's what happens when the unions go crazy, when the basic pension. Now, I'm telling you, pension no longer good. We have a pension problem in state New Hampshire because they promise all these retirements. They promise all the retirement, but they're not funded. It's a way to negotiate around.
I think that's going to be a big problem this next budget session up there in Concord.
It went up. Our pension from the police, it went up 29% somewhere around there for retirement costs. Yeah, it is 31.4%. Just take a fiscal 14. 30% increase in retirement.
If people
pay.
want to see that, are you sharing that with anybody? If somebody calls you, would you send them a copy or something?
Oh, it's right on the website. This is the every contract when it comes before the alderman. The city of Nashua does a nice job on that. We have an ordinance we passed, and I think I pushed on that ordinance. There has to be a financial analysis in front of every contract as part of its submittal. Oh, you can just submit a contract and say, go approve it. No financial analysis, so only the insiders would know. But we have that, and here, that's what it looks like. It's used typically a spreadsheet.
Okay, and where do you get that on?
1 or 2 pages, see, and that gives you all the information you need.
It's on the city's website.
It's on the city's website.
What department?
Well, you go to legislation.
Legislation.
So you go to go nashua.gov.
Okay.
You go to legislation, which you can get through the, go to the city clerk's office, you go to Alderman, kind of hide it a little bit. It should really be up
Well,
front.
that's why I'm asking, because I
It
know
should
some
really-
of these
it should-
things are hard to find on there.
I think that's
I mean, they're transparent, but only
It's-
if you know where you're going.
the public meetings up front,
Yeah.
the agenda's up front, but they don't give you the details
Yeah.
to you search for. That's one tricky thing about the national website. It's probably true of any government website.
Probably.
You know where to go, you find it quickly.
right.
So you go to national.gov and you search for legislation. When you find legislation, you see proposed resolutions, adopted resolutions, proposed ordinances, adopted ordinances. Union contracts are proposed resolutions and adopted resolutions.
Okay.
When you go to the proposed resolution, you look it up. This happens to be, police contract happens to be R14061. Resolution 14, 2014, number 061.
061.
061. If you want to have the professional paraprofessionals are 14060, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, the police communications are 14069. So you look it up, you poke into it, up comes the PDF file, right on top, first page, second page, after they introduce, you should look at the resolution, it says, consideration resolving to adopt or reject, and then the third or fourth page in the analysis. Now, the interesting thing is this. The power of the aldermen come in because they have approval or rejection authority over the cost items, not the working conditions. Now, you're familiar with other state law, probably the same thing. Cost items. Well, almost everything is a cost item.
Right.
Overtime is a cost item. Salary is a cost item. Okay, you got the card there. Look at all the benefits. Every single one of these benefits. Stipends is a cost item. Bereavement pay is a cost item.
You talked about the financial analysis of all these budgets for the different departments and stuff, but did they have to, since that resolution's on the ballot, did they have to give a financial analysis of what this means?
This is not a union contract. You're talking about the question on the ballot?
The question
talking
on the
about a
ball-
union contract?
No, the question on the ballot.
That's completely unrelated to the contract.
Okay, but so you don't get a cost analysis for that. What does?
You don't even get a pro and con argument on that, which I've asked for. You know, the city clerks don't want to have a pro and con argument. We've taken that to court one time.
Really?
Yeah, I felt that they should give pro and cons, like you do in California. He said, no, we don't have to go with pro and con. We give a summary. Well, there's a summary, it's not the same as pro and con. There's a summary. Now, the summary talks about fighters and bombers are part of the index, okay?
What do you have? Just a couple of sentences there? That's all you have? It's on the ballot, the summary?
What's on the ballot? I have a copy of it with me here. It's a whole page. Okay. And it basically gives you the resolution. It says, it's resolved that, you know, the CPI index will be replaced with this funny word index, meaning government index, government, local, and state spending. And then, so they give the actual wording, which is pretty lengthy, with the crossed out sentences, and then the summary, and that's it.
That's it.
There's no pro, there's no con. Now, in this last Sunday, and it's basically on my instigation, because I thought you just tried to kind of put this below the surface. I said, let's get the Telegraph to sponsor a debate. Now, they wouldn't do that. They said, okay, let's have a pro argument, my view, article, and a con, my view, article. Okay. So Gary Hoffman is a teacher, young guy, presentable guy, nice guy. I like Gary. He's just, you know, misguided about his opinion about the spending cap. But then, you know, he's a union member.
So
right?
that's going to come out?
No, that came out last Sunday.
Okay.
So there's my article. Says vote no on this change. There's his article, vote yes on the change. And today, Ken Siegel, Alderman,
okay. Well, we'll have to see that.
Inserted another article.
Fred, we've run out of time. Is there anything else you want to summarize on this?
So show me the card. No is not a candidate. Vote no does not mean vote for Mr. No.
Right.
It means no
on the adoption of this change. Yeah.
No on the change proposed.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you. Thank you for your analysis.
Thank you, Carl.
preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.